law, they're only required to notify ODNR 24 hours before they do all of the various problems. But they're not required to actually be present, even during the well casing and the cementing. They recommend that there be a plan for shale development and impacts on a regional basis, as well as for air noise and traffic and so forth. So many recommendations that really need to be put in place before this hydraulic fracturing, this unconventional drilling takes place here in Ohio. There's also a conflict of interest because ODNR is solely funded by the oil and gas permit fees and by the severance tax revenue. So the more permits, the more they make. And furthermore complicated because ODNR in the state are in business with some of the same companies that they have to regulate because Ohio sells their land for parks and state forests now. And so it's relatively convoluted. ODNR is significantly understaffed. There are currently 32 field inspectors in total for the state, and yet we have over 64,000 active wells and 275,000 total wells. And on average, we drill roughly 1,000 wells a year. And ODNR has stated many times in the past that they like to see each well 8 times during the drilling process. So 8 times during the drilling process, times 1,000, plus the 64,000 active wells, all for 32 field inspectors that are supposed to be running around. So you can understand that they don't get to do the job that they need to do. And so with that, I'd like to introduce Mark Mangan, who will talk to you for a few minutes about his experience with ODNR.
Thanks, Vanessa. They told you before that in September of '08, they drilled a well near my home in Allerdale Park. It's about 2,400 feet from my home. We had no knowledge of any of this being done. Before I go up there, this is my water after they drilled the well. If you want to pass it around so everybody can look at it. Yeah, don't drink it, whatever you do.
Don't drink it, don't smell it.
So anyways, after they drilled this well, my well went dry at home. I come home from work and my wife's telling me that, Mark, we don't have any water. And I go, what do you mean we don't have any water? She goes, I don't know what's wrong. I turn on the faucet, there's nothing. So I'm like, all right, I'll go downstairs and see what's going on. Well, I check out my system and everything seems okay with my system. I'm not understanding what's going on. So the only thing I can figure is my well pump went bad. So I called, a lot of you probably know Diffuse Drilling. He came out and checked out my well. Well, he said, my well pump works fine. He goes, you don't have any water. And I go, what do you mean I don't have any water? And he goes, well, there's no water down there. So I asked him what could cause this. And he goes, first thing out of his mouth is, are they drilling any gas wells near you? And I go, well, you know what? The night before I was coming home from dinner and I drove by Allerdale Park and there was a drilling rig set up in Allerdale Park and it was all lit up and there's all these people around it and stuff. So I'm guessing, yeah, somebody was doing something. So he goes, well, you need to contact ODNR. So I contacted ODNR and they came out to do an investigation. At first the guy that I talked to, the inspector, says, yeah, that's probably what happened. By the time he makes it to my house, the drilling company has driven by my house several times with about 3 or 4 trucks. And by the time he pulls in my driveway, he's like, nah, that couldn't have happened, you're too far away. And I'm like, what do you mean I'm too far away? Because I read the story 9 months earlier about the home in Bainbridge and how the fire station, the police station were affected, and they're a mile away. He goes, well, I'll tell you what. He goes, if your water comes back in 5 days, it was due to the well drilling. And if it doesn't, it had nothing to do with the well drilling. I go, okay. So within 5 days, my water came back. It just wasn't my water anymore. My well used to produce 30 gallons a minute. Now it only produces 3. And if you're looking at the bottle that's going around, that's what it looked like. It was so salty that you couldn't drink it. It was like, it tasted like ocean, you know, and it was just bad. So I called ODNR, and he goes, all right, I'll be out, and we'll test the water for you. And like a dummy, I'm trusting ODNR. You know, I'm thinking my state's not gonna stick it to me. Well, he comes out and he takes these samples in and he tests the water, and he tells me at the time when he's at my house that my chloride level is 1483. Now, when they go and test it, they won't give me my results. They said they varied too much. We're not gonna give you the results. And I'm like, that's my water. How can you not give me my results? Well, we're gonna send somebody else out and retest it. So a month later, they send another geologist out to test my water. Well, during this period of time, my mom had been battling cancer for 4 years. And we'd set up an appointment for him to come out to my house. Well, I just took my mom in hospice the week before, and she was not supposed to make it the following week. So I called him up, and I tried to reschedule. He would not reschedule. I told him I had a horrible dream the night before, that I'm in my backyard with this gentleman when my mom died. And that's exactly what happened. I don't know about you guys, but I don't think anybody has the right to take that day away from you. I'm sorry. That was really hard for me. So anyways, this gentleman, when he took the samples, he told me my chloride level was 750. Well, when his test results came back, my chloride levels were 248. And so I call and I talk to the ombudsman, and he's telling me that, well, I actually sent him a letter. He sent me a letter back of what happened the first time. I had my own water sample tested, and my sample was over 700. And now they're telling me it was 248. And I'm like, things just don't jive. Well, the ombudsman at the time's name was Scott Kelly. And he actually wrote me a letter and stated in there that we knew your test results were varying from over 700 to 248, but they only reported it at the lowest level. Now, if you read in your documents when it comes to ODNR and filling out permits and stuff like that, omission of information is fraud. And that's exactly what they did. They omitted information. During this whole thing, when they finally said what happened to my property, they said we were affected by a drought. I don't know, you guys remember the year of 2008? Was there a drought? I'm going to remind you of something here. My well is a very deep well. It's 245 feet deep. My neighbors were also affected. They're 240 feet deep. All the wells in our area are anywhere from 30 feet to 120 feet. We're the only 2 deep ones. None of them are affected by this drought, and drought should affect the shallow wells before it affects the deep wells. But that's ODNR's excuse, is that, well, we had a drought and that's what happened to your water. And then I asked him, well, tell me about why did my water turn into salt water? Oh, that's from the roads. From the roads. Okay, thanks. So needless to say, I mean, I'm going through all this stuff and nothing's jiving. So you're kind of stuck. I keep calling people and trying to get people out there. Eventually